Okay, so good evening everyone. Mayong gabi sa tanan. I am Raymark Esporazo and I'm going to discuss the Western and Eastern thought concept of the self. But before we proceed into that discussion, I would like to differentiate the differences between the Western and Eastern thoughts. So obviously, these countries have different environment and different cultures. So as a result, it creates different perceptions of the self. And one of the most distinction between cultures of Western and Eastern thought is that they use this concept to understand much more within themselves. So they do the cultures and traditions and beliefs they have. So as what you've seen in the geographical concept, in the eastern represents the Asia, while the western represents the Europe and Northern America. So basically, nga nila ka-simple, pag mayingon ta og eastern, kabilang dira ang Asia, while the western, kabilang dira ang Europe ug North America. But always remember that these countries have geographical closer to each other. And they do also have different factors and perspective within themselves. So when we say perspective within themselves, how the way the Western thought convey within themselves, how the way they describe kung unsay lang sarili. So in Western thought daw, Western thought conducts scientific investigation to understand the self. So basically, they use scientific investigation as their basis to much more understand their self. And so, they develop theories and difference among with them. So, yung nato ang ilang way when it comes to Western thought on how the way they convey sa ilang kaugalingon. They also emphasize the importance of scientific methods of investigation to provide satisfactory answers to understand themselves. So as what I said earlier, no, in Western thought, they use scientific methods in order to understand themselves para masabtan ang ilang kaugalingon. So, kung maingon magutag scientific approach, it is an approach seeking knowledge that involves forming and testing a hypothesis. So pag mo gamit ka og hypothesis, di ba, na mga certain things, procedures, or step na need na to i-follow. And once na imuhan ng gamiton, you can remove the subjectivity or being biased sa imuhang self to others. And since scientific method man siya, no, it requires each answers must be authenticated with objective evidence. What else? No? Also, the Western thought cultures is what we call an individualistic culture since their focus is on the person. So, this scenario emphasize individualistic rather than relational. So, unsa may meaning anang individualistic o relational, sir? So, within the Western thought, manggod, ang focus nila kay nara sa ilang individuals, no? Unsaon pagsabot sa imong sarili, unsa ang mga things nga imong gina-achieve, unsa tong mga gamit na imong gina-look out for. Unlike manggod sa Eastern thoughts, they they address their self in relational or relationship to other people. Okay, so for the last one, most of the philosopher we have that are being discussed in the previous lessons all fall under the Western thought. So in the last part, no, so kung na inyo pa tong na-recall tong mga lessons nga giano atong mga niaging semana kung sila Socrates, sila Aristotle, sila Plato, sila John Locke, mostly sa mga philosophers gikan sa Western is fall jud siya under the Western thought. So basically, kato sila nga katong ilang mga idea o concept sa ilang kuan, understanding the self under just the Western thoughts. Now, for the last one, Eastern theories are highly practical. They offer a variety of techniques for cultivating a deeper understanding of the self, and they do not utilize the scientific techniques of investigation. So, ang Eastern thought, dili jud sila mo gamit og scientific methods. Unlike nga sa Western thought, nga mao jud tong una nilang gina-address. Let's move on to the closer look to different Eastern thoughts. So number one, naa dirang Buddhism. Number two, Hinduism. Number three, Taoism. So, in the Eastern thought, no, they ga-focus jud sila sa ilahang religion. Because sa religion man god in Eastern thought, dirian nila gina-relay along their concept, understanding their self. Sa karon, I'm just going to discuss the Buddhism because Miss Archel Yamido will further explain the Hinduism and Taoism. Okay, so let's begin in Buddhism. So in Buddhism comes from the root word bod, meaning awake. So in other people, ang pagsabot nila sa awake, gising or ning mata. But in Buddhism, if you relate the meaning awake in Buddhism, awake means implies to understand more about yourself and of course in the real life world. So mulat ka sa mga butang nga nanghitabo sa kalibutan. So now let's move on. Kinsa may founder sa Buddhism? So ang founder sa Buddhism is Siddhartha Gautama, known as Buddha. Si Siddhartha Gautama ang founder of Buddhism. Now, in Buddhism, they believe that there are 5 parts that compose of an individual. So, isa dira ang matter, sensation, perceptions, mental construct, and consciousness. And for the additional information about Buddhism, they believe that there is no self. And there's only nothing and all else is an illusion. So if you're going to recap the discussions earlier, no, there is one philosopher who believes that there is no self. Si David Hume ang nag-believe na there is no self. Siya ang philosophers nga katuo nga that there is no self. Si David Hume. Now, they also believe that nothing is permanent but change. So in Buddhism, gatuo sila nga that the world is ever changing, lahat daw nagbabago. Everything change and changes is necessary for them. And so as under Buddhism, they have this term what we call anicca. So anicca means impermanence. Impermanence. So what is impermanence? So in Buddhism, they do believe that you as a person should recognize or acknowledge the anicca or what we call impermanence. So if dili daw nimo i-recognize or acknowledge ang imuwang self in everything, no, there may be a illusions that may adapt within yourself. So, as much as possible, you must acknowledge, no, when it comes to anicca, you must acknowledge or recognize yourself in order to bring happiness. Naa sila term nga ginatawag na nirvana. So in nirvana, their ideal to experience a state of transcendent devoid of self-reference. So, ibig sabihin sa under the nirvana is walay concept within yourself. Kasi nga, they believe in a concept that there is no self-accordance. According to Buddhism, nirvana is the state which remind that is not complete and the soul is emerged with the universe. So, mao ni ginatawag na wala na gasamok-samok when it comes to nirvana because kumbaga, they achieve nga ato ang ginatawag na peace of mind. So, if you have those kind of aspect when it comes to the peace of mind, no, there is also kanang way kung unsaon pag-achieve ani. So, unsaon man pag-achieve sa nirvana. So, how do we supposed to deal with it? So, one of the thing to achieve nirvana is the state transcendent achieved through meditation. So, in meditations, no, so kung sa Western, natay concept na soul searching. So, in the Eastern, specifically in Buddhism, na sila ginatawag na meditation so that you can focus and transcended yourself with peace and peace within your mind. So now, how are we supposed to know if we already achieved the nirvana or peace of mind? So according to the belief of Buddhism, it is reached when a person desires and suffering will go away and they need or want nothing within their lives. So in Buddhism, kontento na sila kung unsa tong mga butang nga naa sa ila. So that's how the way they address when it comes to Buddhism. So now, Miss Archel Yamido will further explain the Taoism and Hinduism to understand the concept of their self.
Good morning, everyone. This is the continuation of our report about the Western and Eastern thoughts. By the way, I am Orchel Yamada, and I believe that the Buddhism was already discussed by Mr. Barrazo, along with the difference between Western and Eastern thought. So now, let's move on to the next topic, which is the Hinduism. So, saan nga ba nanggaling ang Hinduism? The religion of the ancient people known as the Aryans. Ito ay nanggaling sa bansang India, just like the Buddhism na na-discuss na ni Mr. Perazzo a while ago. So the law of karma is the most important doctrine of Hinduism. So we all know naman po siguro about sa karma, right? Naniniwala naman po siguro tayo dito. So that is the most important doctrine of the Hinduism, the karma. So they believe that all actions will lead to a good or bad outcome in one's life. Also, in Hinduism, they believe that there is good karma and bad karma. So Hindus believe that Atman, being an immortal, continues to be reincarnated from lifetime to lifetime. So what does Atman mean? Atman is the soul or the spirit. They believe that the spirit or the soul is immortal. It continues to be reincarnated from lifetime to lifetime until it is freed from the cycle of rebirth and reach a state of nirvana or the non-birth. So ang mga Hindus po kasi, they believe on the idea of reincarnation and that reincarnation is hindi natatapos. Paulit-ulit lang na ma-reincarnate until you reach the state of nirvana. So ano nga ba ang reincarnation? So when we say reincarnation, you are reborn in another body. As you can see here, the image sa right side po, from birth until death, and then kapag daw namatay na, magkakaroon ng new life or panibagong buhay. But sa ibang physical body na, pwedeng sa hayop or sa plants. Because they believe in the concept of reincarnation, karma does not end with the body's death. Its influence may extend through incarnation of the soul. So, ibig sabihin, yung concept of karma in Hinduism, hindi siya natatapos. Kapag namatay ang isang tao, the karma still continues after you reincarnated. So, matatapos lang siya once you reach the nirvana or yung kanilang concept ng heaven. Now, for the last thought or religion, we have Taoism. So, it's an ancient tradition of philosophy and religious beliefs attributed to Lao Shu. So, saan nga ba nanggaling ang Taoism? Unlike sa Hinduism, ang Hinduism po kasi is nanggaling sa India. So, yung Taoism, it came from China. So, basically, yung thoughts na na-discuss natin is umiikot lang siya from India and China. So again, who is the founder? Ang founder po ng Taoism is si Lao Shu. Okay, so Taoism believes that the self is an extension of the cosmos, not of social relationship. So Taoism holds that humans and animals should live in balance with the Tao, or the universe, or yung cosmos. Yung cosmos is yung tinatawag natin na universe. So, ang focus ng Taoism is hindi social relationship, but rather your relationship in the universe, or yun ang tinatawag natin na cosmos. So, next is, they describe the self as one of the limitless forms of the Tao. Ano ba yung Tao? So, the Tao is commonly regarded as a nature that is the foundation of all that exists. So, ito po yung pinaniniwalaan ng mga tao na nagpa-practice ng Taoism. So, another one is, the perfect man has no self and the selfless person leads to a balanced life in harmony with nature. So, there should be unity and harmony among opposing elements, the yin and the yang. So, kung makikita niyo po yung picture sa right side, that is the yin and yang. So, yung yin it is characterized as an inward energy that is feminine, still, dark, and negative. Yung yin po is yung kulay black. On the other hand, yung yang, it is characterized as an outward energy. Masculine, hot, bright, and positive. Siya naman yung color white sa right side. So Taoism believes that simplicity, spontaneity, and harmony with nature should govern one's life. Therefore, there should be unity and harmony among opposing elements, the yin and yang. So, the balance of yin and yang is important. If yin is stronger, yung yang naman will be weaker. And if yang is stronger, the yin will be weaker. So vice versa lang siya. Okay, so ang target ng Taoism is to have a balanced life of both good and bad. We should be one with nature. Hindi dapat tayo nagpo-focus sa mga material things around us. Okay, so moving on to the last part. In this part naman, since we already discussed the Western and Eastern thoughts, we will try to compare the two. And let us look into their differences. So first, in terms of frame of reference, so Western thoughts, there are separation between philosophy and religion or spirituality. So hindi sila pwede pagsamahin. On the other hand, sa may Eastern, religion and philosophy are intertwined. So ibig sabihin po, magkasama sila. Parang kambal na dito, hindi pwedeng paghiwalayin. So, how about sa example of school of thought, belief system, thought or belief system of Western. So, sa may Western, papasok na dyan ang scholasticism, rationalism, empiricism, and phenomenology. So, more on scientific approaches na po siya, since gumagamit nga sila ng scientific method. On the other hand naman, sa Eastern, we have Buddhism, Hinduism, and Taoism. So, ito po yung na-discuss natin a while ago. So, when it talks about philosophers naman po, I know we are very familiar of this since it's already been discussed to us before. In Western, we have Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, René Descartes, John Locke, and many more. So, napakarami ng Western compare sa Eastern. So, sa Eastern naman, we have Lao Tzu ng Taoism, Siddhartha Gautama ng Buddhism, and sa Hinduism naman, wala pa siyang founder siguro dahil ito po yung kinukonsider na oldest religion in the world. So, hindi na na-recognize kung sino ba talaga ang founder ng Hinduism. So that explained the Western and Eastern concept of the self. I hope you learned something today. Thank you and God bless.